What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tamisha, also known as Mrs. Coda. So today in this video, I'm going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of occupational therapy. So if you want to know what it is, I suggest you stay locked in. Alright guys, so we are going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of this profession. And like any job, any career, things are not always rosy. Let me just put it that way. So I'm going to talk about the good things. Let's start off with the good things about this profession. The first thing that I would say is really great about occupational therapy is patient progression. All right, just being able to see your patients do well. I had a patient that came in and they were pretty much bedridden. They were total dependent. They had a global stroke, and we worked with this patient for a very long time. I think almost close to a year, right? And that took a lot of petitioning for continuation of therapy, and their family was very active, which made a big difference for their care. But what I can say is that same person that people were writing off and saying there's not much more we can do, ended up progressing to the point where they were able to now sit in a wheelchair, sit up in a wheelchair and be able to speak. They weren't able to speak before, and they were able to speak, and that was such a huge progression. They had limited movement with their extremity, not too much, but it was something, right? Especially going through a global stroke, that is huge, right? That is a big progression. Also having, again, a patient come in that is extremely weak, total dependent, and being able to walk out of the facility with a walker to go home, right? So that is one of the great things of this profession, is that you can make an impact on the quality of life for someone. The next thing is really team building. It's really good to work with like-minded individuals that really have the heart for the profession and really want to see their patients do well. So it's really good for team building, and from team building you really develop friendships. So this is another thing, is that I have really years, almost a decade worth of friendships from people that I started working with when I first became a CODA until now, right? So you really can develop good friendships from that. The other good thing about this profession is you have career advancement if you choose. You can start off as a CODA, and then let's say you decide that, you know what, maybe I'm going to start off working in a skilled nursing facility, but now I'm going to work with kids. Okay, I'm done working with kids. Now I want to work with mental health. All right, I'm done working with mental health. Maybe I want to go into the community, or maybe I want to do home health, or maybe I want to go into the school system. Maybe I want to do home modification. That is something you can do. You can shift in this career, and you can advance yourself in a career by saying, you know what, I no longer want to be a CODA. Now I want to be an OTR, right? You can go back to school and advance. Maybe you don't want to just stay at OTR master level. You want to have your doctorate so you can go into academia. Okay, again, another advancement. Let's say that you are okay with being a CODA, but now you want to become specialized. Now you can go and get all these different kind of certifications, right? So really the sky is the limit. It just comes down to your creativity and what you want out of your career. That is the good of OT. Now, let's talk about the bad. The bad part of occupational therapy, and I would say for me, is the deaths that I had to witness in the profession. Unfortunately, you can't help everyone, and some people, particular to the skilled nursing facility environment, you're working with seniors, you're working with older adults, and unfortunately, not everyone makes it. And especially in the time of COVID-19, the amount of deaths that I saw was horrific, and that can really play out a real toll on your mental health, especially if the person that has passed away, you really created a bond and a real good friendship with. Okay. The other thing that I would say the bad of the profession is there's going to come points in time where you're using all the evidence-based practices, and you're giving your 150%, and this patient is just not making improvement. It happens. It's not necessary you're doing something wrong. It's just how it goes. Some patients just won't make the improvement that you expected or you wanted them to make. All right. Another thing that I would say is really tough in this profession is if you're a coda, there is a coda cap. All right. So there's a certain amount of money you can make being a coda. So if you are satisfied with being a coda and you love being a coda, just know there's going to get to a point where you are going to financially cap out. You're going to financially max out at that level. So you can either accept it or you can try to advance yourself by going and getting a certification, or going and do maybe travel therapy, which pays a little bit higher outside of the regular, scopes that we tend to work in. And then I would say lastly, the bad that I feel like a lot of working codas would agree with is the burnout. The burnout can be rough, guys. And with burnout can come injuries as well, especially if you're not using proper body mechanics during transfers or patients that are really low level. So with the burnout, there's been therapists that just have walked away from the profession because they're just burnt out. The caseload might be a lot. The pressures might be a lot for management. So just take all of that into consideration that there's some bad. Now, the ugly side of occupational therapy, I would say, is unfortunately, this is a business, right? And unfortunately, patients can be treated like a number. All right. They can be treated like a number. And, I've seen some therapists work with patients as if they were a number, not giving them full quality of care. I've seen some ethical issues as well happening. Also, there's time caps, and it makes it very difficult to give quality of care. Maybe you only have on your schedule, and this is kind of crazy. I've walked into my schedule and I've only had like 15 minutes with a patient, and I'm thinking to myself, 15 minutes, that's really not much time to really make an impact. And you're going to have that. Another, I would say, ugly part of the profession is if you're working with difficult supervisors and difficult co-workers. It's going to happen. You're going to be working with people with different personalities, and there's going to be situations where you might not get along with the people you're working with. And that can be an ugly side of just any profession. You might have people you just don't like and you don't like working with, right? Another part of OT that can be really ugly is you might be working with a rough population. You may be in certain areas, maybe it's a low income area and there's a lot of crime. And even though these are older adults, you got to remember they were young people before, right? So certain behaviors carry with them, and working with those populations can really get ugly, and you need to have thick skin. And to kind of back on that, is you're probably going to have situations where you're working with patients that are nasty to you, even though you're being very professional and kind. They may just be flat out nasty, and you'll probably run into a situation where you're getting a lot of patient refusals. Just know that it's not you. Sometimes people are just not in the mood to do therapy, and then sometimes people, that's just their behavior, that's their personality. They tend to be really rough. So you really got to have thick skin as well working in this profession. Don't allow your emotions to overtake you. Don't take things personal. and learn how to regulate yourself. All right. So this is the good, the bad, and the ugly of occupational therapy. All right. If you like this video, be sure to like, share, and don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, guys, see you later.